Today we want to welcome Miguel Garcia from the Anti-recidivism Coalition. He's the policy coordinator there to the Prison Post. Good morning, Miguel.
Good morning, Richard.
And we're really excited about hearing your story and some of the work that you do. Not only in your own personal life and your own personal journey and what you're passionate about, but also for ARC. I have some close friends that are work for ARC, and it's just interesting to see what you guys are doing in the world of restorative justice and the prison reform movement. And we're really glad that you're here today.
I'm glad to hear you, and be able to share my story and share my journey and the work that we do at the Anti-recidivism Coalition is. I'm glad to share that experience with y'all.
Right on. So Lakers, huh?
Yeah, I'm a diehard Lakers fan and basically LA fanatic, so Dodgers included.
Dodgers, Lakers, out here in Sacramento.
Yeah.
How's that working so far?
Oh, I definitely rocked the hat when they came to Sacramento, so,
And you guys do a lot of work with the Kings too, right?
Yeah, we do.
You don't wear the hat then, though, right?
Nah, I don't. I try not to, but I've been kind of persuaded to buy a Kings hat because I've been here for some time already.
Sure.
Or not some time, but for a bit already.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll buy a hat and represent the team that I'm currently living at. So
Jay, you're a Lakers fan too, right?
I am a Lakers fan.
Awesome.
Born and raised in Southern California.
Well, fun fact, we got 3 Lakers fans at the table because I'm a LeBron James fan.
There you go.
And wherever he goes, I go.
Awesome.
Miami, Cleveland, and now LA. I never thought it would be so. But speaking of LA, Miguel, where did you grow up at? And would you be willing to just share a little bit about your story, your background, and leading up to with the work that you do today, but also at the age of 15?
Yeah. So I kind of want to dial back a little bit. My dad, at 14 years old, was the only child of his family to migrate from Mexico at a very young age.
Okay.
My mom was born in East LA. My dad was older. My mom was younger. They met and had my brother. The relationship was always the best. My dad probably was still dealing with a lot of the problems that he had, encountered as being, a migrant, undocumented kid in California and being the only one of his family, even to this day, and didn't kind of mesh well with the relationship with my mom. So my mom filed for a divorce and kind of raised me and my brother out in Riverside County, where basically spent most of all my kind of childhood there, leading up to 15. Having a dad not being there, present, was always a challenge for me. Growing up in a neighborhood that had kind of some of the similar background story, but I didn't realize that there was a lot of kids out there trying to search for something.
Sure.
For me, it was like, how could I go ahead and handle what I need to handle myself? Because I can't go to someone with my problems. I can't go to that figure or that individual that I could trust. My mom was always working. She had to work. And my grandma, and I stood home with my grandma most of the time, taking care of us, because my mom couldn't afford a daycare person or babysitter. So
right.
Mostly in Hispanic households, you have a family relative that you could kind of break them off and let them know, like, hey, can you take care of my kid and for a certain amount? And so my grandma did that. But again, being a kid, a lot of things like kind of were happening for me. Me wanting to seek attention, me wanting to like kind of just be, the Tasmanian devil. And I say that because like that's how I was. I was just like that.
You go a mile a minute?
Yeah, as a kid. And I
was a little bit like that. My mom used to say, you have ants in your pants.
Yeah. And I remember even like just like I think that the signs that I think some teachers seen in me was like 5th grade. The teacher called in my mom to come sit with me in class. My freshman year, the teacher called again to see like what's going on because I was being truant so often.
Right.
And it's like, so there is this sense of like, what's kind of going on. My mom raised me like morals, respect, all that stuff. Like, she never told me that this is the wrong thing you should do and you should do it. It was like this is wrong and you shouldn't do it. But again, me being a young kid that didn't have that male role model, kind of just piled me into doing different types of things, negative things, getting involved in with crowds, trying to again show the machismo. I was a rocket. Like something lit me up. Like I was gonna be like, all right, let's go fire on it. And that's how it kind of led me to 15. I was charged for a very serious crime. It was premeditated attempted murder, and I was facing 15 years to life at that age. It was scary. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I just remember just the quietness that my mom had. You know, just the unknown, like the confusion of going through the court process. It was and it was my first time. It was,
so you never had a run-in with the law before this?
I've never had a run-in with the law. It would be always like, there'll be calls,
right,
but it will be like, let them go. Like,
sure.
It'll be like, I got caught stealing at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
I got caught stealing a Harry Potter movie at Walmart, and they're like, let him go.
Right.
Got in fights in school. You know, suspend them for this amount of days. Like, so like the school was pushing me out. Like, you know, my teachers were already thinking that I had this negative, bad kid. You know,
bad apple.
Yeah. So the school was kind of like pushing me out. Like I remember principals coming to me and like saying like, hey, why don't you have a good relationship with that guy? Is like, why are you like, what's going on? Like, so it really felt like I actually was pushed out by the school.
Miguel, going back a little bit though, I know you talked about like being truant in the 9th grade, and you also talked about not that lack of the positive male role model in your life, and not having. So after you guys moved, your dad was no longer around when you guys moved to Riverside?
No, he wasn't. I think he would always make this excuse that, you know, LA to Riverside was too long of a drive. My job's in LA. I can't, you know, there's not a job for me in Riverside. Like I can't go. And it's like, it kind of like said a lot, you know, and now that I'm a dad, like I will, that's my priority, is like being there for those special occasions and those special moments when I can. While still realizing that I'm kind of sacrificing some things too, well, with the work that I do. But yeah, it was hard on me. Kind of taking that, and in my relationship with my father continues to be rebuilt. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's a process, because since coming home, I've kind of just been focused on how I still actually need to heal from the stuff that I've experienced while being incarcerated, but also how to live out here, because it's especially right now is like, it's a challenge for all of us. And then I think I keep the door open, but I can't go ahead and initiate that conversation with my dad. But I am like, the door's open, and like, Dad, you have to be willing to like really initiate the rebuilding, because I think my time and because I have a family and all this stuff it's become really it's to my capacity. I've been very limited, but
Miguel, were your parents in the courtroom when you were sentenced at 15?
Yes. My mom was, and my dad.
Mm-hmm. What was that like?
I think that it was kind of strange and tough, because my parents were separated, mm-hmm. and my mom had remarried. My stepdad was a good man, and like, but he was a recovering drug addict. Mm. His drug of choice was crystal meth. But he was supportive with me. He was always that one to like at least try to fill in those shoes. But back in my mind, I knew that you're not my dad. Like,
right.
As much as like and also too, like, don't preach if you don't walk. So like, knowing that like he had his
practice what you preach.
Yeah, knowing the challenges that he had with his drug addiction, it was really hard to take him serious.
Yeah.
Or there was very few male role models to take like I want to grow up with you. And the individual that I had was one, my older brother, had that the looks, the academia, and it was like a popular guy. But then, you know, he had his urges with women, and he had a kid at high school. So it was like, again, there wasn't no escaping this stigma that, you know, young brown men, you know, get young women pregnant and like go into these different, just kind of live this type of stigma reality of Hispanic Latino communities. And it was just like, I didn't it was hard because I knew that for me is like, there's more to this. There's more to like, you know, what the norm of me kind of just us living. And so, yeah. I want
to sort of press in a little bit more, because I think there's a debate out there, and some people believe, well, you don't really need a positive male role model growing up. There's a debate. Some say, well, you don't need a male. And then others, a story. I mean, I was incarcerated 20 years. I heard the story over and over and over, even from my own self, you know, not growing up knowing my biological father until I was 14 years old. And I felt a void. The only positive male role model in my life growing up was my grandfather. And he was probably, to this day, now that there may be 5 men that I look up to in my life, but the only one I had was my grandpa. And so some people say, well, I didn't need a father around, and others say, you know, that affected me. And it sounds like for you that was part of your story. Yeah,
absolutely. But I don't want to discredit that I didn't have a male role. I think my uncle was definitely a big kind of driver of my worth ethic. It's like, you want something, you go get it. And it's like, I remember wanting a gaming console, and I just collecting cans. Like, and remember that a bucket of cans would give me $20. And even going into like my Trello teams, I always knew that a bucket of cans would give me $20. So I have $10 for the gram of weed. And then so it was just funny. Like I was instilled that hustle from my uncle, and his work ethic of actually being positive and like getting out of the neighborhood, living in a nice home. It was instilled in me, and so sure. I carried that on into like my incarceration. Is like, how do I take advantage of the position that I'm in?
So you went in with that mind frame.
Yeah, it definitely is, because.
And you were 15.
I was 15, and I think just like saying you're gonna get 15 years to life is like, okay, what are the odds of me? How do I get home? Like now, that's what I wanted to do, is like, and it's challenging to kind of navigate. How do I get home in a setting where you're around? For me, it was like you're around a lot of other young people that are kind of facing some of the similar things like that,
but not thinking the same way.
They're not thinking the same way. And then one of the things is like, how do you want to come off too? Is like you kind of still have this type of I'm no punk, you know, like I'm gonna handle what I need to handle, and I'm gonna do my shit, you know,
right.
And so I don't know, we're allowed to curse or anything.
I mean, hey,
feel free, be.
So yeah, I think that was challenging, because like I remember when I first got there, it was like one of the guys was like just being like kind of like obnoxious, and it was just like, sure. Do you have a problem? And it was like, you kind of just sense the tension change, because like it was very hard. Again, like the goal was to get home as soon as possible, but the obstacles in the way with, you know, dealing with people and others.
Sure.
And then it even kind of like exacerbated when I went on to the Department of Juvenile Justice, which was known as the California Youth Authority, because and y'all probably could experience. I've never stepped in inside the adult prison system, but it's just kind of the similar, like,
sure.
The minor leagues of the political system.
They used to call it like a gladiator school.
Yeah,
right.
And so it's like you kind of step into that obstacles is where now, like, oh, are you a Southsider? Are you a Norteño? Are you a Blood or Crib? Are you you know? So
and you got to be something.
You got to be something, and it's just like, well, I'm from you know, Riverside. I'm from Southern California. I basically grew up around all the, you know, the Southern Hispanic kind of culture. So I guess I'll identify myself as that. And in doing so, like the goal of kind of like, how do I get home quicker? Becomes like complicated with
sure.
how do I survive to get to home quicker?
Right.
While still, again, how do I make the 365 days out of the year that I have this year easier, so that I can make sure that the next. So that was
because it's never just about you when you're inside, right?
Right.
Especially when you're talking about like race-based, gang-based politics. It's like, you know, well, the homies are on the yard and it's going down with the blacks or the whites or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So it's real hard to make that decision for yourself, but you did it.
Right. And one of the things is that like that was a really challenge. Like at first it didn't click to me though. Like you know, I'm like, how do I ride the wave so that it could be easier? Because if I went against the current, I'd be like, well, if something happens with you, you ain't gonna get. Don't expect nothing from us or anything like that. So there's like, I was like, okay, riding the wave, and then like having rode the wave, and then seeing like so much of the injustice, like just kind of like, you know, having a room next to a black person and having those conversations, or having like a room next to an Asian, and having those similar conversations and just laughing and like, just like you're a cool dude,
right?
Like just at the end of the conversation, you're a cool dude. Like that was like some of the ways that a lot of the conversations that I had was like you're a cool, like with other people from different backgrounds, was like you're a cool dude. It was like you're a cool dude too. It's because there were so many similarities that in the beginning, I think with the way the system it was set up was like to fog them up and like just say that you're unique, you know, your story. Like, but I was noticing that just so many people had different, like, regardless of the different walks of life, had similar backgrounds and stories such as mine.
Yeah. We used to say in Soledad, the community is method. Community is a method of treatment. You get guys from all different backgrounds together, sitting in the same room doing, you know, therapeutic work or insight work or just talking, and they realize, wow, I'm just the same as these guys are all the same as me. We have similar stories. But take us back, man. I mean, how old are you today?
27.
27 years old. So 15 is not too far removed from you in a way that it might be from Jay.
Nah.
41.
We've already established that you're older than me,
I'm
Rich.
a little older, but 42.
My quinceañera is not that far away.
But going back, you know, 12 years, you know, I think about some of our listeners, and they may be thinking, my goodness, my son is 15 right now, 14, 16, and he's in this room playing his Xbox. And I can't imagine that you're going to Department of Juvenile Justice to CYA for 4 years, 5 years at the age of 15. What's going through your mind at 15 years old when you're facing this amount of time?
I was that kid playing that Xbox too. I'm like, what happened? I didn't mean to do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't mean no harm. All those things. I was because that wasn't me. I think that that's not who I was gonna be. Again, I've always wanted to be someone that was different from that stigma of a young brown man that didn't kind of have his father around. And
so you knew you didn't want that narrative to be yours for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but again, it was scary. Stepping into the courtroom, not being able to, knowing your parents are there, but not being able to turn around and see that they're there for you, because just like the way the setting is in the court was scary. I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it, because it was scary. I didn't know what was gonna happen. But looking at it like back, I think the audience should be aware that, you know, the harm that I committed was very serious. But it didn't define me. It's not. It was, if it was supposed to define me for 15 years to life, I wouldn't be here even having this conversation.
Right.
You know, I needed the treatment. I needed like guidance. I needed help. I just want to like let people know about like that type of background.
How much time did you actually serve, Miguel?
I served about 4 years in DJJ.
So, how did you come to earn your release so early?
So I was sentenced under California's Department of Juvenile Justice. You could be sentenced up to juvenile life, which is under their jurisdiction was 25. That's basically my whole That's what I was going to be going up to. But
so a life sentence equals staying in until you're 25 years old.
And under juvenile justice, yeah, of your sentence under that. But it gets even more complicated. Like you get assigned categories based on the harm that you committed, and so category ones are like very serious, like murder, sexual harms that include rape, torture, very, very serious things. Mine was a category 2, which was an attempted, murder. It may be categorized as an assault with deadly weapon, burglary, it's something of that sort. So the two unique differences between a category 1 and 2 is the category 1 is required is that they at least their earliest possible release date is 8 years.
Okay.
For category 2 is like the earliest possible release date is 4 years. And so, again, I came in like not like with my P's and Q's, but like with my my fist up. And so I had gotten a time ad, and so my first years I got like 6 month time ad, and so I was it went up to like my earliest possible release date went up to like 4 months and 4 years and 6 months that I was gonna, and then it I think I again getting another time it went up to 4 years and 8 months. And so I was like, dang, like this happened in like within my first year. And so again, having those conversations with people in the inside that ended like, you're a cool dude, kind of like pushed me away from riding that wave. I love playing basketball. If you know like anyone inside, like especially I think the YA games are a lot different than the prison, but like you hardly would see any Latinos or any Hispanics playing basketball. We'll be playing soccer more often, but we did play basketball. Some of the homies didn't know how to like really play. They'll be like, you're fouling too much or something like that.
Right.
But I love playing basketball, and and some of the brothers I like to compete. I don't want to like I like to play a good physical game, and like
if you're gonna play, let's play.
Let's play some real ball. And so again, just that thing, like being like, who could I play with, who could I not play with? The second year, at the my end of my second year within DJJ, I was already again, I got incarcerated on 15 going on to 16, and then like my years that I spent were my birthday going on to my next one, and so 17 going on to 18 was like around the end of my second year. And I just was like, this was not kind of the thing that I wanted to do. Like, there was drama just within, like, being within my own ethnicity, like, with the hustle that the side hustle that I wanted to do is like, there was just so much animosity. I was like, where's all the purpose that I thought I was, the reason that I was writing this wave for? Like, where is that all at? And it was just kind of, again, like, it was a facade. It wasn't a reality. It was something that was trying to put in place the support that young men and young women need when they're in that place. Sure. And it's a negative thing. And so when I came with that realization and with the conversations that I had with different people, and just like the times that I was like would get like write-ups or anything, like it really was like a really awakening. It's like, this is not a place for young people, and this is not a place for people in general to get help or be rehabilitated. And so I kind of like committed myself to kind of stepping back and stepping away. There was challenges. People were trying to test the authenticity of me stepping back, and that was challenging. Like, still wanting to program, but seeing that like people would test your program, right? Like, and it says like, you didn't know, like you would hear like conversations down the wire, like people were like, oh, like let's pack them out, let's roll them out, or because I've seen that before. Sure. And it's just like it, but again, the I think the consistency of them testing my authenticity resulted in like this dude's like real, like he really like is about, you know, one, like he believes that not just one group of people don't belong here, but he believes that all group of people that are inside here don't belong in these types of settings. He wants to actually do good, so that he could come back, like, and come home. Like the testing of my authenticity was like a result of like, oh, we respect him now.
Sure.
But it was like
they saw that you were committed.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think that's awesome because we know some people who are 60 years old and they haven't come to that realization yet. Or if they did, they continue to let their actions be in alignment with that old negative thinking, negative behavior, and they're just still on that path. But you coming to that in CYA as a teenager and taking a stand in there, I mean, it sounds like you planted your flag and said, here's my stand, come what may. And from my experience, it doesn't happen too often. It's possible, but it doesn't happen too often. But you did, and then the result of that, which I experienced myself, is that they come to respect you.
Yeah. But again, I could just tell you, like, the unsure moments of, like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to kind of feel dehumanized, not just by already with the situation you're in, but dehumanized by the population that you're inside with. So that was kind of always the scary thing, like, is like, because I've seen people get rolled out as just like, oh, like stripping them and, like, you know, just kind of embarrassment, and is like that's not who I wanted. But
for our audience who doesn't know what rolled out means, can you share
like,
a little bit about what that means?
So depending on the group that you roll with, if they don't like something that you do or you did, or like you're kind of like walking, you know, dragging the fence and still kind of cooperating with that group, they'll beat you up, strip you, embarrass you, and it could be a group of people. So the weeding out who did what and did how is difficult, and you don't want to be that person to then point out who did what, and how. So that gets, like, you know, that's a rollout. Those are the things that, you know, happen, and I've seen happen. And yeah.
Miguel, were you incarcerated when 260 came into play?
So I was leaving when 260
SB 260.
Yeah. And so I guess I could share a story about it, and that, and
great.
Yeah. So I got involved, like, again, I wanted to do something different. Every program that was offered in the DJJ, I was like, okay, college program, Coastline Community College, like, I don't like it. I hate those corresponding courses, like, really, really hard. Like, but I wanted to get involved. I'm like, wanted to continue my education. I'm like, okay, my another thing is, like, my parents are, like, really driving a lot over here. Like, how do I like, and it was, like, from Riverside to Ventura. That's like a 4-hour drive. Through traffic. It could possibly be more. I'm like, let me just tell them, like, I don't need I appreciate their consistency in visiting me, but I would rather have them step back so that I could heal more on my own. And so I started I was the first young ward at the time throughout the whole entire state of California to earn $2.50. I was making more than the fire crews.
That's big. That's big money inside.
Yeah, outside of
$2.50 an hour.
Yeah, outside of I was making more money outside of the fire crews.
Yeah.
If there wasn't no fire, so
$2.50 an hour.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
So
he was balling.
So because, like, the inmate ward labor crew, that's what it was called, had a contractor that would pay us $1, and the state would pay us $1.50.
Oh wow!
And so they put those two together, so that we could get $2.50.
I think it's important just to note that it's impressive. $2.50 an hour is impressive to 3 formerly incarcerated men, because the average rate was 8 cents an hour.
That was my job before leaving, was 8 cents an hour.
So one of the things is that we worked. I advocated inside for that wage, because prior to getting that wage, we were working on a project. It was lockup BTP facilities, behavioral treatment programs for youth that can't program with other youth. So it's a lockup unit. And they were only giving us $1. It's like, this is really like laborious work. Like, you're having us pick up, all the demolition work that you have, digging these like 6 by 6 foot footings where the dirt is like literally almost turning into clay with like shovels.
Right.
And so I was very fortunate enough to advocate for that 250. And I was a lead laborer for 25, other youth. And I advocated too that these youth not just only come from, low or moderate core units, but also to units that are also in high core, that for youth that are wanting to go ahead and transition back into the lower or moderate units so that they could continue programming. I took advantage of that, as well as the scholarships that they were offered. Came home with $5,000 in cash from that. And that was within like a 18 to 2 month period or 2 year period. And that was like around, like my 18th going all the way to 20 years old, 17, 18, going all the way to 20 years old. And while I wasn't part of this journey, Scott, he would come in, Scott Budnick. Yeah. He would come in and, break down these conversations, and SB 260, he brought it up, and this was like, my discharge date was coming up. I was doing good, so I had those 8 months of like those time ads that I hadn't reduced, so I was able to make my 4-year period, like, originally. And then he came in here and talked about like how SB 260, I'm like, okay, let me reverse back and put myself in the shoes and be in the position where I could qualify for SB 260. I want to be able to show them that, people like that commit serious harms can change. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't think nothing of it. They said, can you guys write your assembly member, a letter and asking for them to support? I wrote them a letter and with the help of a psychiatrist that I was talking to at the time, because I needed to find out what an assembly member was and what they do. And so I explained my story. I wrote it down. I turned it into the class that Scott Budnick presented to, and then didn't think nothing of it. Around the time that I was about to be discharged, I heard SB 260 pass. The assembly member that I wrote to had, read my letter along with Scott, and Scott kind of reached out to me back while I was inside. He's like, what do I want to do? When I was like, well, I want to change the world. Like, and he said, well, start with Riverside first. And he's like, that's where you're coming home. And he's like, yeah. He's like, all right, cool. And that was actually my first job kind of stepping in, was working with a state assembly member. I had an interview with them. I was fresh out. I think I was 20 years old, like fresh out. And I went in with the resume with the experience that I only had from DJJ. Okay. And so definitely put my construction experience. Worked at the central kitchen. Yeah. Just kind of all these little things, like, the certificates, like I'm like my network cabling one.
Did you reword it? Did you say I have experience in the culinary arts?
No, I think now that I would say is like, something similar to that, but I would say I have experience in the culinary arts for the state of California.
There you go.
So that's something that I would probably
make that resume work for you.
Yeah, and basically it was like,
but he gave you a shot.
The assembly member gave me the shot. The district director kind of like just trashed me. Like, basically, if he had a red pen and like if his words were a red pen and took to my resume at the time, it would basically be a pull of red. Right. Because the way he just criticized and said, this is that, this is this and that. Like, we don't really do this, or like, do you know what you're like? It was just like, really, what am I doing here? Am I capable of this? His office was located at the University of UC Riverside, which is like Riverside County's biggest university, and as well as part of the UC system. And so just being there is just like, kid just fresh out, around college students. I'm in a state office, and the district director saying like, do you know what you're doing? Or
and isn't that true? We talk about that some. Me and Jay, we're directors for the crop organization, and we have that conversation often about. They're on the one hand, they think that people are coming out of incarceration. Hey, they got to go to construction. They got to go to fast food. You know, that's all their brains are capable of. And then there are those who say, who have another perspective, which is, I see a person as he could be, and then I give him a shot in that way. And if I see him as he could be, then he could come out after a few months and work for an assembly person. And even though he may only have culinary arts experience, he's young, he's driven, he has a great work ethic, he's here, and we're going to teach him, and we're going to help him, and we're going to mentor him. I mean, you're always going to have those people with competing conversations, competing perspectives. But isn't it so much more empowering to be the person who's saying, I see it, who he could be, and I'm going to give him a shot?
Absolutely. If I didn't have the conversation with the boss man himself there, I don't think I would have got the job. I think my morale would have been like, okay, you know, what fast food can I work to? Or, hey, Theo, like, do you have a construction job that I could do? I have those skills. I need to do something.
Another one with construction, for people who love construction, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying that there are
assumptions. There's assumptions about what we're capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. And
thank you, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, that needs to be thrown out the door, because of assuming a person that comes home from incarceration can't accomplish something is like you're placing the wrong bets. Like, that's you don't know what these individuals are capable of, and I think that's what we need to invest in, is like the opportunity of the what they can be capable of.
Sure, and it's really to everyone's detriment, because you're overlooking like valuable employees, valuable policy directors, valuable communications directors. You know, people who can really put a lot of worth behind your organization. So,
right.
Yeah, future entrepreneurs as well.
Sure.
Yeah. And so, you know, I got that opportunity. The boss man, the assembly member, Jose Medina, said, you know, you come highly recommended. We're going to give you a shot. Again, by providing an opportunity is like just one hurdle out the way. You know, winning over a staff, winning over a very conservative area, like, you know, in the work that you do, and especially the person who you are and the background you are, is a challenge, because his field representative at the time, one of his field representatives at the time was a former lieutenant for the Riverside Police Department, and he had said a comment that said, normally we don't hire formerly incarcerated people. Hopefully he doesn't get mad and shoot up the place one day. I was like, well, okay, I guess there's that tone that, you know, and with the tone, like, you know, what is he capable of is like, how do I prove him wrong? As 15, I didn't really learn how to drive, so I didn't learn how to drive until either when I came home right away. So my mom still had to pick me up from the corner to drop me off at my job. So those were some of the challenges. I'm still learning to drive at already at an adult age was unique for me. I had a very good and stern instructor with my uncle. But, you know, going in day out, like without pay for 3 months, I think demonstrated that I was committed to my community. They extended it for another 3 months. I had a conversation with the chief of staff. She's like, would you want to work here? I'm like, yeah, like who wouldn't want a state job? Like, you know, especially someone coming home. But then I had another conversation with the member himself, the state assembly member. Said, I want you to go to school. Like, I want you to finish it up and all this stuff. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I enrolled in community college, and then the thing is like, well, I don't have a job. So the same person, the former lieutenant and field representative, same person that said that comment was the same person that got me my first paid job. Through the community college, which was extremely helpful. Was able to get priority registration. For those that don't know, that returning to community college or going to community college is challenging for some students, because community colleges can't meet the high demand for those that are graduating and wanting to come back. So there was the classes that I needed or wanted at times where, like, you know, when I first came home, They weren't available.
Right.
And so that 6-month internship of working with that assembly member, winning over the staff connecting me with the community college, was helpful because I was doing outreach work. The groups that I would always volunteer for is like giving probation tours, or people that are coming home from jail or prison is like, let me help you enroll in FAFSA. Like, and their doubts is like, I don't think I qualify for this, or like, I could actually answer your question. Like, did you do this or do that? And like, no, I'm like, you do qualify for it. So, helping to guide and navigate individuals was something really helpful. But I never kind of like had my like head high, like, oh, I was in a state assembly. Just because I started off at that point wasn't something that like, I'm not going to accept nothing, or I won't do nothing less. Because I needed to eat and I was hungry. And so while I was in community college, I had to work almost 3 jobs. I worked at Applebee's as a host, as a person that kind of did the monitoring of the food, as well as a dishwasher. I remember friends picking me up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's when we will, and like all the dishes would be clean, or sometimes 4. I remember working at Walgreens and getting yelled at because I didn't pick up the right Marlboro Reds or the Virginia Slims. I didn't pick the right cigarettes.
Right.
But I always again, I knew that I was gonna have to work to what I needed to do. Like, and so working 2 to 3 jobs was something part of it, because the limited opportunities. I knew that if the way I started off as like working for a state office, I knew that the opportunity to get that wasn't going to be the same way that I got it the first time. So I had to build up like character and all that stuff. So I went and did that. And for community college, I was taking a lot of community college courses that would have eventually, when I finished in 2016, I would have left with 3 associate degrees. I kind of slacked off. I think I told Richard I call it senioritis, because I already had enough credits for 1 associate degree. So I'm like, why am I doing it for another 2?
Right.
And so I didn't pass 1 class, but I'll tell you, just like my persistence to want to get it done, like later on, is like when I transferred over to UC Riverside, where I got my bachelor's degree, I didn't work no more 2 to 3 odd jobs. I started working for a law office that I got, that I applied through my school. It was a family law.
Why law?
Why law?
Yeah.
Man, why not?
Why not?
I think for communities like ours that have been impacted, is like we need lawyers.
Sure.
Family members. My brother had a tree fall on his car, and he's told the city like they're not going to be able to. They're not going to repay for it, because they said that it was neatly trimmed. There was good weather on that day, so it was like I could be that lawyer to help you get your money.
Sure.
Or also to the instances of like families, just like people that are either fighting for someone to have a second chance. That's something that I look for, but also to accountability. Having dealt with the system and seeing like the injustices and things like that, that's the type of lawyer that I want to be. Is that
prison reform?
Prison reform.
So you want to be a lawyer?
Yes.
Absolutely. So you got your bachelor's degree. What was your bachelor's degree in?
In political science and international affairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Are you still going to school?
I'm in process of applying. So I'm collecting my letter of recommendations for my law school applications this fall.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Miguel, man, I mean, your story is, I think about just, 7 years ago, you were coming out. And when I was looking you up on LinkedIn and on ARC's website, I'm just seeing like, the policy coordinator for the anti-recidivism. I wrote down a few of them. Part of the Restorative Justice Project at Impact Justice. Policy fellow with Human Rights Watch. Was that with Elizabeth Calvin?
Yes, it was.
And served as the youngest commissioner ever appointed to the Riverside County Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Committee. Former Western Regional Board member for the Coalition of Juvenile Justice Executive Board. Appointed by Governor Jerry Brown to the California State Advisory Committee on Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. Member and consultant of the Annie E. Casey Juvenile Justice Strategy Group Youth Advisory Council. And got your bachelor's degree, political science, international relations, and now looking towards a law degree. And when I think about that, man, I'm just first of all, I'm proud of you as a formerly incarcerated person, as a friend, as a man, and as a human being. And I think about the family members who have their loved ones who are incarcerated, and they're wondering, can my loved one get out and change his life? Can he go to college? Can he graduate from college? Is it going to be possible for him? I mean, are you an anomaly, or are these things possible for everyone?
These things are possible for everyone. I had to go out and get the resources from another county, but that doesn't mean that these resources can be found in their own home counties. I think the work that I'm doing on right now is to develop the infrastructure and build the infrastructure where community-based organizations that are culturally competent, as well as aware of the struggles that many formerly and system impacted face, can help them out. I still reach out to these same organizations that I'm still needed guidance, so that's very helpful.
I mean, obviously you're a person with deep drive, your passion, and it sounds like your drive is juvenile justice.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, my drive, again, personal experience from juvenile justice, I just see that I have the academia experience, but I'm striving for more academia experience. My personal experience, but also to those that have been involved in the adult prison system, learning from them, learning from the challenges that they face, have been able to inspire my work and able to help change that. With the Prop 17 getting folks who are on parole to vote. That's work that I've been fortunate enough to be involved with other organizations. There's also the parole reform, where helping folks earn their way off parole. There's things that money that we're wanting to allocate for emergency housing that where people are returning home, that they're able to go ahead and be in a place where they can get the services and they don't feel neglected. So I'm very fortunate enough to be surrounded by a lot of individuals that I continue to learn, but don't kind of heavily depend on my own wisdom, because I think it's a team effort, and I think the work that Crop organization is doing and U&J is it's fuel to the work that we do and I do.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I just want to know a little bit about ARC.
Yeah.
So Anti-recidivism Coalition, are pretty well known up and down the state, but a lot of people who don't know, we're just curious about, what do you guys do? What do you offer? If someone's coming out or somebody's still in, what could they, if they were looking for help, what does ARC do?
So our organization is pretty unique in ways that it does three things. Some organizations may do two, some organizations may do one, or neither, but our organization does three. And those three things are policy. We advocate in reforming and changing policy throughout the state, as well in local jurisdictions through Sacramento County, as well as Los Angeles. Our organization also helps with inside programming. We have a Hope and Redemption team that goes inside Pelican Bay, all the DJJ facilities, some of the county jails in Sacramento, and some of the county jails in Los Angeles County. Mm-hmm. We go inside also a variety of other state prisons, where we help provide a Hope and Redemption curriculum, where some are guided on how to navigate the parole process. Mm. And this team is comprised of former lifers, individuals that have gone through the same similar situations and have navigated parole successfully. And another thing is with reentry. Lastly, is we help folks reintegrate back into society with direct services that include job development, education, as well as counseling. Our organization right now during this pandemic has been picking up people from outside the gates and driving them home through our ride home program. So,
have you been on any of those?
No, I haven't. I want to be going on some of them soon, because we believe that DJJ is going to be starting that soon. So, I'm excited.
What about as a policy coordinator? What's some of the work that you do? What's a typical day like for a policy coordinator? And you just share a couple of stories that highlight some of the rewards of that opportunity.
So I think one of the greatest rewards is working with other organizations throughout the state and getting other input. I think, I had a colleague of mine say, like, sorry for going back and forth with you on this. It's like, don't apologize. I'm glad we're going back and forth on this because it's something that we both want to go forward on. And this is the type of dialogue that it's needed to have. I think in terms of that work is like, how is the state responding to COVID-19 in state prisons? How is states responding to the DJJ closure, and how does that look like? As well as some of our policy bills, like, so some legislators may have a different tone one week and then they have a tone the next week.
Sure.
It's just the meetings that we have, like, they'll pop up randomly and then you have to become an expert on what that meeting is on a short time notice. What
are your thoughts about the way the CDCR is handling this COVID-19 pandemic?
I think they're very unfortunate. I'm very saddened by kind of the lack of accountability, as well as like the direction that some of our facilities need. And I think it's going by a single by single based institution when it needs to be going by a collective, direction. And I think just one of the things is the transferring. I think that needs to be looked into when you're talking about human bodies. Like, how does the transferring of individuals look like?
Right. I do have another question for you in regards to, as a policy coordinator, policy director of ARC, what do you think, in your opinion, is the single most important piece of legislation or policy that needs to occur to help returning citizens be equipped to successfully reintegrate into society?
I think I'll probably be biased on this, but voting and restoring the rights to vote for people on parole, Prop 17. I think everyone that has served their time, and again, parole is not an extension of a punishment, but is a transition period in making sure that the individual is successful. I think restoring voting rights to individuals is critical to the way our country's civic service operates, and without including a population which is disproportionately always affected in different realms, I think by excluding them, it's detrimental to what real public safety could look like. And so I'm excited to see voters be more educated on Prop 17 and how that could, when you have a voice, you feel like you have a purpose. And so we want to return that purpose to folks that are tax-paying citizens, that are business owners, entrepreneurs, and our families. So,
yeah, I think it's important. I went to speak at the Capitol before it was Prop 17. Before it got there, it was ACA 6. And I remember speaking for it at a press conference and saying, hey, I served nearly 21 years. I'm still a citizen of this country, right? And I believe that I should have voting rights. And I don't know, it's been over 100 years. I don't know if those on parole ever had voting rights in California. But for us not to be able to vote or come out, I feel like some of those assembly members or senators who voted no think that that parole is an extension of incarceration, that you should continue to be punished. It's hard enough. I came out here and somebody had stolen my identity while I was on the inside. So immediately I had a credit score in the 500s. I couldn't get into an apartment. And then they want 2 years of rental history, and then they want 2 years of job showing that you've been working and what your wages are. And I didn't have any of that. So it's like that part of the system is set up for me to fail. And I think there should be some reform in that area. Getting the right to vote may allow us to make it. What is there, over 50,000 people on parole in California?
Oh, yep.
And give us an opportunity to make an impact, to have our say. I'm paying taxes. I volunteer in the community. I speak at church, at recovery groups, at AA, and Celebrate Recovery, and live my life as a person that's giving back. And I'm not doing anything different than any other citizen would. So I just want to encourage people to look into Prop 57 and really weigh out the benefits. It doesn't make sense to me that me or Jason, after coming out 20 years, wouldn't have our voting rights restored.
Right. It's important. Yeah, and look forward to that. So,
yep. Any new bills, in closing, new bills on the horizon that family members of the incarcerated need to know about that could affect their loved one?
Right now, I think the work that we're doing, I think we looked at it in a lens that a lot of programming may be affected, and making sure that the funding is like not taken away in those places. We're also looking at the big transition thing and the custodial interrogation. I believe those two bills are for the transition of individuals whose cases originate in juvenile court. So say your case starts in juvenile court. So say you get locked up at 17, but you turn 18. You're not going to go to a county jail. You'll stay within a juvenile facility up till 21. And so that's SB 1111. The authors and the co-sponsors about this bill thought about this bill because, one, identifying like the transfers and how that becomes an issue with spreading COVID. Another thing is that knowing that the programming that one individual may be receiving at 17 will look different at 18 because they're in a jail now, and seeing like what's available in a jail as compared to what's going to be available in a juvenile facility. So making sure individuals are staying in juvenile settings, but also it will kind of boost up their opportunity to stay within the juvenile system if they're looking to be tried as adults. So looking at the 16, 17-year-olds who the judges still have discretion on whether they should try them as adult is a bill that we're looking at. So SB 1111, as well as, I don't want to get the number wrong, but I think it's SB 203, which will limit the interrogation process for, I think, 14 and 15-year-olds, because there's a lot of nuances and complexities on your Miranda rights, and we want to make sure that individuals within a specific age range understand what that means. So
that's great.
Miguel, thank you for joining us on the Prison Post. I'm just really grateful for you coming today, sharing your story. If people want to look up the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, is it anti-recidivismcoalition.org?
Correct.
Okay, you could Google it, find out your resources. They have offices in Los Angeles and Sacramento.
Correct.
And when in the non-COVID situation, they could find you at the office on a regular basis.
Yes, and right now we're located on K Street, but we'll be moving to another office soon. But our phones are always available, and you go ahead and contact me via email.
All right. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you for using your time, your talents, and your efforts to make a difference in the world of restorative justice and prison reform. Appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Thank you.